Of course, you feel most comfortable playing your own kit at first. But if you play in many different studios or at many festivals where either gear is limited or you simply have to play something completely different due to the sound, then you quickly learn that the drum set alone doesn't determine a good performance. Often it simply depends on how well prepared you are. So best case scenario in a studio would be that I don't just have an idea of what I want to record, but also have an idea of how it should sound like that you got a vision of the sound in your head that you try to realize. And accordingly, I can then choose the right drum set and the right room, which is at least as important as the instrument itself, especially in drum recordings. And if both already exists, it's pure fun. Then it's quick to get to grips with the drum set, and there you go. However, I guess it's quite often the opposite. Many people hope to find answers to questions in the studio that they couldn't give themselves beforehand. And especially when it comes to sound, it's getting very difficult unless you're unlimited in money and time. For ultimately, we try to capture that very magical moment, right? And therefore, it helps to get your head in the game beforehand, and then you can switch it off at the right moment. For too much thinking is rarely a good thing, especially at the moment of performance, and all that requires a good preparation. A mixed ready sound. Basically, I like making decisions in the studio. Every decision you postpone is tantamount to betraying your gut feeling, but digital technology has unfortunately given us that. So here we are. But the closer my drum sound is to the final result, the more coherent my performance in the songs will be, as it is based on that sound. So I think it's quite important to realize the vision of sound you got on location, and that includes a mixed ready sound or performance, and not later in the mix. I've been to studios where they were surprised that I play a real bass drum and not a kick pad, so that they can put the bass drum in afterwards, which may make sense from a production point of view, but has absolutely nothing to do with a good drum performance that is totally triggered by the direct response of my drum set and the room, and vice versa. So, I don't know, you can probably argue about bagpipes and nose flutes or whatever is currently popular in metal, but I'd still count a bass drum as one of the more important elements of metal, so please let me play it. But a good sound check's therefore very important, as it doesn't just affect my own performance, but also that of my fellow musicians or whoever is going to record on top of the drums. Because if instead of a good drum sound, the only thing they hear is like reassurances that everything will sound good later in the mix, then their own recording will probably suffer as a result. So why not create something that you are happy with right away? The Tama Starclassic Bubinga and me, I think we're a good team. We know each other very well. We've been on so many stages together. And there's a certain character in that beast that you cannot tame but let loose, and I like that. It comes with two 24-inch kick drums, so you really have to work it out, but not in the sense of a piece of sports equipment, but to make it vibrate. You can express yourself, and I love the physical movement the kit demands of me to make the shells sing and to set the air in motion and to translate energy into a larger-than-life sound. And this is exactly what Charlie did. He captured that sound fantastically and produced his larger-than-life sound, if that's even possible, on top of it. And you check it out yourself. It's on the plugin. Well, this kit is slamming. It offers an extra low-end fullness that totally serves the overall sonic picture of the voices I'm surrounded by, so that's great. The toms have a lot of presence, with a biting attack and are so rich in sound. I don't know from any other kit. At the same time, it can be tuned excellently, which is important to match the voices, especially live, when everyone is focused, like of the singers focused to stay in tune and must not be distracted by the drums, for example. So yeah, another plus. So it's a very musical kit that perfectly translates my energy, has great tonal depth, and is extremely versatile as well. So depending on the heads you're using, you can tweak it into so many different styles, which is wonderful for both one canto, but as well as any other studio job. So Tama has done a fantastic job, and I'm very grateful to be able to play it. I will never forget the moment when I recorded with Charlie drums for the first time. I had been to a lot of studios before, but often the drums sounded exactly like they do when you hit them in a rehearsal room, very natural. However, we play metal music, right? And metal is far from any kind of natural acoustics. It's produced energy, nothing sounds natural. A 7-string without electricity is quieter than any vacuum cleaner. So when I first walked into the control room, listening to Charlie's larger-than-life sound, I was blown away. And it had a massive impact on my playing. We all know the rehearsal room arguments, where drummers are asked to solo less and to play more in a song-oriented way. And why so many fill-ins in my verse? Aren't you listening to my lyrics? And how about a steady snare drum? Or can't you do that either? We've all been there. And the drummer's like, what the fuck? Why doesn't here anyone appreciate my art? Or am I once again the one-eyed man among the blind? And yeah, I think this controversy has a lot to do with sound. If a hit on my tom isn't absorbed by the thick foam of my rancid rehearsal room straight away, but out of a sudden sounds like Valhalla and is a statement, I stop drumming and start making statements. And that's what I love so much about metal music, you know, you gotta say something and it's coming straight out of your spinal cord. So sound taught me a lot, let's say, about dynamics and consistency, keeping the impact of kick and snare high no matter how fast I play, still keeping the groove, not losing the flow. And to be very honest, it almost broke me at the beginning. You know, you play too much, too unsteady, little control, big ego. Who do you want to impress? The producer, the band, probably yourself. But fortunately, there's nothing more honest than a microphone. And in the end, this is when you start developing your own style, your signature sound. And I guess sound taught me a lot about how to play my drums in metal. Do I have to learn how to produce that sound in a studio? Well, why not? If I'm interested, learning is always good. But maybe not if it unnecessarily distracts me from the real thing. And that's exactly what our plugin is all about. We want the user to focus 100% on the performance. There are no additional buttons or controllers that have nothing to do with the drumming, but rather with engineering, you know, like EQ or compression. Actually, everything you can assume that you don't really need to adjust much if you buy a professional drum library, right? Of course, you can turn the sound of the plugin into different directions depending on your taste or how you want to embed the drums in your mix. But you can do this without having additional engineering skills. That's why we have Charlie for. Charlie makes sure that your drums always sound splendid, that they're big, that they're fat, whether you want them huge, straight, in your face, direct, indirect, 80s-like, doesn't matter. But you can be sure that you can focus on music only and write your next killer track.